All of these children are in school or will be attending school in a few short years. You may be surprised to know that 7 out of these 10 children would not have attended public school when they first began, due to their chronic illnesses or disabilities. They would have been turned away because of their differences, despite their ability to learn and thrive in a school that gives them the resources and services they need to succeed. In reference to a quote by Thomas Jefferson, these students would have been the rubbish among the geniuses. Although the first public schools began in the 1600s, children like the ones shown were not allowed in these schools until the 1970s, when the Rehabilitation Act and the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, now known as Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, were passed. This led to the training of special education teachers who were educated in how to provide students with the resources and services they needed to be successful in school. People with disabilities have been discriminated against since the beginning of public schools. It was believed that this population of people were dangerous and should be segregated to keep the rest of the population safe. The solution to this came in the form of institutions. Institutions began as training schools, whose main goal was to help people with disabilities be successful in their communities by becoming undeviant. These schools were found to be a success, and some students who had mild to moderate disabilities were reintegrated into their communities. As this solution became more popular, the number of training schools increased, and so did the number of parents seeking a place for their children with disabilities. As more students began attending these schools, the education portion was abandoned, and the schools became just a place for people with disabilities to be sheltered. Fear drove people to leave their children in institutions. They were told that this was the only choice they had. Although we have come very far in our treatment towards people with disabilities, we still have a very long way to go. Students with disabilities are just recently beginning to find their place in the general education classroom among their non-disabled peers. There are still many people who believe this is not an appropriate setting for students with disabilities and that they are incapable of learning the same material as their non-disabled peers and should be separated so they can focus on life skills and only basic academic skills. By not allowing students with disabilities the same opportunities, we are not allowing them the respect that all students deserve. I will leave you with a quote from Dean Douglas Bicklin, winner of the UNESCO Prize to promote quality education for persons with intellectual disabilities. Assume that a child has intellectual ability. Provide opportunities to be exposed to learning. Assume the child wants to learn and assert him or herself in the world. To not presume competence is to assume that some individuals cannot learn, develop, or participate in the world. Presuming competence is nothing less than a Hippocratic oath for educators. It is a framework that says approach each child as wanting to be fully included, wanting acceptance and appreciation, wanting to learn, wanting to be heard, wanting to contribute. By presuming competence, educators place the burden on themselves to come up with the ever more creative, innovative ways for individuals to learn. The question is no longer who can be included or who can learn, but how can we achieve inclusive education? We begin by presuming competence.